The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Lord, to you, Lord.
Jesus said to the disciples, "There was a rich man who had a manager, and charges were brought against him that this man was squandering his property. So the rich man summoned the manager and said to him, 'What is this I hear about you? Give me an accounting of your management, because you cannot be my manager any longer.' Then the manager said to himself, 'What will I do now that my master is taking my position away from me? I am not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. I know what I will do when I am dismissed as manager, so that people may welcome me into their homes.' So, summoning his master's debtors one by one, he asked the first, 'How much do you owe my master?' He answered, 100 jugs of olive oil.' He said to him, 'Take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 50. Then he asked another, 'And how much do you owe?' He replied, 100 containers of wheat.' He said to him, 'Take your bill and make it 80. Then the master praised the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. Because the children of this age are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than are the children of light." The Gospel inspired by God. Don't you love a story that has an unexpected twist in the tale? Yeah? I mean, it's the essence of all really good jokes, is that the joke is proceeding and you think you know where it's headed, and then all of a sudden at the very end it goes off, orthogonally. So I'm going to try a joke on you this morning. There was an elderly couple, really, really old, in their 90s, and they're having problems in their relationship, so they decide to go to a psychologist.
There's no hope.
And they got two big problems. The first big problem is that they're really, really grumpy with each other, and they want to try and sort this out. And the second one is their memories are shot. They can't remember anything. So they go to the psychologist and he says, "I just have two very simple suggestions for you. The first one is this: once a day, do something really, really kind for your partner. Just once a day, do something really kind for your partner. And the second one is, have a little paper and pencil, and before you're going to do something, write down what you want to do. And so just tweak your memory a little bit." So they figure, well, this was well worth the money. So they go home and they're going to try it on. So they're sitting on the couch watching television, and the husband gets up and he's walking towards the kitchen, and all of a sudden he turns around and he says, "Honey, can I get something from you from the kitchen while I'm out there?" And she says, "Yeah, I want a bowl of ice cream." He says, "Okay, bowl of ice cream." So he says off, she says, "Don't you need to write it down?" He says, I can remember a bowl of ice cream." So he's headed off, she says, "I want strawberries in it." So he's heading off, she says, "Don't you need to write that down?" He says, "I can remember a bowl of ice cream and strawberries." He's heading off, she says, and I want some whipped cream on the top." And he's heading off, and she says, "Don't you need to write that down?" He says, "I can remember it, a bowl of ice cream, strawberries, and whipped cream on top." So he goes off into the kitchen, and 20 minutes later he's footling around, and he comes back in, and he's got a plate with bacon and eggs in it. And she takes one look at him and says, "Where's the toast?" So that's the sense I get this morning from this story that Jesus is telling. You think this is going to be a moralistic story. Jesus is telling a story about an unjust steward who was embezzling his master's money, and the master finds out and he fires him. And you'd expect that the moral of the story will be, don't be dishonest, don't steal other people's property, and be honest with each other, and if you're in a position of authority, use it well. So you're expecting a kind of a moralistic homily from it. He goes in a totally different direction. And the first thing is, in this tiny little story, it's only a few lines, he manages to cram in a lot of interesting details. He's not just telling the bare outline. If this were, your typical homilist, the story would be very simple. Once upon a time, there was a rich man, and he had a steward in charge of his property, and this guy was embezzling it, and so he fired him. That would be the story. So don't steal from your masters, be honest people. That would be the extent of the homily. He manages to build in a whole bunch of very interesting details. The story is about the rich man who had a steward who was in charge of his property, and he gets a report that this guy is embezzling his funds, and he calls him and he says, I want to see the books, because I'm hearing these reports, and you can't be my steward anymore. And the guy goes off and he's thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do now? You know, if he sees the books, it's obvious I've been embezzling the funds. What am I going to do? I'm too old to kind of get a job as a day labourer. I can't go digging ditches. I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'm going to do. And he calls in his master's debtors one by one. And he makes them part of the kind of the embezzlement. And very interestingly, he doesn't change any of the bills himself. He says to Joe, how much do you owe? And you owe 50 jars of oil. He says, take your bill, write 20 here. You're going to write. It's going to be your handwriting and your signature. And when he checks the books, I didn't change the books, you changed the books. Lee, how much did you owe my master? And it's 100 bushels of wheat. Oh, here's your bill. Change it to 80. It's going to be Lee's handwriting. So when he's checking the books now, all you guys are going to be kind of part of the scheme. So when I'm thrown out now, I'm going to say, hey, buddy, I saved you a whole lot of money. I went a little bakshishi. Joe, I saved you a whole bunch of money. A little bakshishi. So even when he gets fired, he's looking out for himself. And then the twist in the tail is, instead of Jesus talking about moralistic, about don't steal from people, be honest, he's not saying that. He praises the unjust steward insofar as he had acted shrewdly, because the children of this generation are shrewder to their kind than are the children of light. So what in God's name is that about? Why is he praising this guy? There's the twist in the tail. Instead of a moralistic kind of homily about not stealing from people, he's praising the guy for acting shrewdly. So what's he saying? So there's two very interesting lessons in it. And the first lesson is this: just like the steward was able to turn every situation to his own economic advantage, whether he was employed as the manager or whether he got fired, he was able to turn both of those situations to his own economic advantage. And Christ is saying that's what you need to do. You need to be able to turn every circumstance to your own spiritual advantage. There is no situation in your life which cannot be translated into grist for the mill of your spiritual growth. So there's no such thing as good luck or bad luck. Whatever happens to you in life is an opportunity to become a more and more spiritual person. And that's the real meaning of the word karma. That karma is not this punitive mechanism whereby we're punished in subsequent lifetimes for mistakes we made in previous lifetimes. Karma is the realization when we wake up, oh my God, I got exactly the hand I had planned before I came in. It's exactly what I planned. The body I have, the family I was born into, the time in human history, the culture I'm a part of, the gender I have, the intelligence, whatever it is, the ability, the socioeconomic status. It's exactly the hand I planned in order to learn the lessons I needed to learn. And it's not just about the hand I got at the beginning, it's the hand I have today and the hand I have tomorrow. It's the people in my life now, the people who will be in my life in the future, the situations that occur today and the situations that occur tomorrow. There's nothing that cannot be changed and charged to your own spiritual evolution. That's what Christ is saying. There's nothing extraneous, there's nothing coincidental, there's nothing accidental, there's no luck, good luck or bad luck, they're just opportunities to grow. And the second great lesson for me is that we would normally think of this as a parable where the rich man is God and the steward in charge of the property is you and me, sinners, but we're embezzling God's property and God is going to fire us and we're going to get sent out to hell. And it's not about God and us at all. Again, it's the relationship. The master is the soul and the steward is the ego. And the ego works on behalf of the soul. Allegedly, it should be working on behalf of the soul, but for most of us who are asleep at the wheel, the ego thinks it's an end unto itself. The ego never thinks about the soul. The ego thinks, the world, it's his oyster, and it's trying to turn every situation into an egoic endeavor. And the truth is, they need each other. The master needs the steward. He hasn't the time, he's a very, very busy guy. He hasn't time to be managing the details of his own property. And the steward needs the manager in order to have a job. And so the ego and the soul need each other. The soul cannot have an incarnational experience unless there's an ego to manage the experience. And the ego is there to work on behalf of the soul, not for his own benefit. Great case, so fire. Margaret.
I was thinking about, we come here and we made an agreement and so on, and so we live our life and we have this karmic experience all the time. But the karmic experience isn't necessarily just ours.
Absolutely.
Because it flows to,
Totally,
with.
totally.
And I was just thinking as a mother, how we always feel guilty about not being a
Mhm.
mother. And how we see our children suffering,
Mhm.
possibly from, some things that we weren't able to give them
Right.
as far as dealing with life.
Right. You're absolutely.
So we have a double.
Yeah.
There's a double problem.
Yes. Or a double opportunity. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can see accepting my opportunities for not being awake, but it's harder for me to look at other people's pain.
And that you're making a great point, Margaret, that we're not just responsible for our own karma. I believe that all of us came down together, we made preconception contracts. And there are very different levels of that contract. There's the contract perhaps you make with your soulmate. That's the most intimate contract. There's the contract you make with your immediate family, the family of origin into which you were born, or the family you generate, your own kids. There's the kind of contract you make with your friends in your community. There's the contract you made with your entire culture. There's a contract you make with your entire nation. There's a contract you make with the global human family. There's a contract you make with all sentient beings. So there are various levels of this contract, and the ingenuity and the greatness of the plan of God, or source or whatever, is that all these plans are interconnected. None of these plans are separate from the others. They're all feeding into each other. So it's like that in God's jigsaw puzzle, which contains trillions of pieces, all of the pieces create a perfect image of God when they're assembled correctly. So there are no extraneous peoples, and there are no extraneous pieces, and there are no pieces left over when the puzzle is complete. All of the pieces fit together. Every single daffodil, every single dinosaur, every single human being is part of that. In God's choir, they all have a place. And so we're not just, concerned about our own personal karma, they're interlocking with each other. And as you say, as a mother, it's difficult to watch your children suffering. But the truth is, they're part of this contract as well. And you, as their mother, can't prevent them from experiencing pain, because pain is part of their journey, into enlightenment. So having the ability to do the best we can, and at the same time then realize this is God's game. And everybody, sometimes our kids are much older souls than ourselves. Even though we have responsibility for them when they're little babies and even teenagers, they may well be much, much older souls than we. And so it's not our job to kind of prevent them from being hurt by life. It's our job to try to model for them what we do when life beats up on us, or when life is good to us. When we're triumphant and we're being successful, can we do it graciously? And when we're hurting, can we do it compassionately? Yeah, Jojo.
So we're in 2015, and we have a priest, psychologist, mathematician, physicist giving us the key to what this is about.
Okay.
How about people in the 14th century that were listening to this particular reading? How do you think they unpack it?
It's a great story. And so every generation is going to unpack it according to their own insight. And if indeed we're on an evolutionary trajectory where the human species is evolving, however slowly, and in spite of evidence to the contrary that we see all around us, we are evolving. And each generation is meant to unpack it differently. But the thing is, the people who were unpacking it in the 14th century, many of those are here today on planet Earth unpacking it in the 21st century. So it's not like we have a better chance than they did. It is that the souls who unpacked it in one way in the 14th century now have an opportunity to unpack it in a different way in the 21st century. And in 3 centuries down the road, we look back at a homily like today's and say, oh God, that guy was really a dinosaur in his thinking. We've gone way, way beyond that. And indeed, I hope we will have gone way beyond it. But it's the same cast of characters that keeps coming back in order to play the human drama and to continue to evolve. Yeah. Okay.
But they didn't read that one to the people.
Margaret's comment was, I have a solution to that. I bet they didn't read that one to the people. Or if they did, they said, you guys are the unjust stewards. You're the managers who are embezzling. You're the bad guys. You're the sinners here. Repent. Pay more money to the church or whatever. Indulgences, yes.
When you said our children are older souls, I think sometimes I know Diane is wiser than I am.
Okay.
I remember when she was, teenagers, I was so worried about her. And what she told me, she said, Mom, you can't put me in a bubble.
Brilliant.
You have to let me go
Totally.
to live my life.
Totally.
And I think that's what brought me that thought when you were talking about the children. Obviously she makes mistakes, and so probably keep making mistakes. And like I make mistakes, but she was aware of that. That she has to do her own.
Absolutely.
And I think that I think that is always very hard for mothers.
It is.
Fathers.
Yeah.
We just live through it all.
Because Manny is an older soul than you.
And maybe he's a wiser man. He's trying to bring I just the floor, all that kind of thing. He just went to sleep. But he wasn't awake.
He wasn't very.
Yeah. So I think, it's hard for especially mothers to let go of their children
Right.
and let them have their ups and downs. And
Totally.
it's very disturbing when, you see your kids making mistakes.
Okay.
You want to take them to shake them.
Totally. So I made two responses to what you're saying, Margie. So it is difficult to watch kids make mistakes. But the truth is, it's through our mistakes is how we really learn. The word sin in the New Testament is a translation of a Greek word which means, it comes from archery. It means to miss the mark. You're firing at a bullseye and you miss the mark. But the essence of archery is the feedback you're getting from the results of the shots you're taking. If you can't see the results of the shots you're taking, you can't improve your aim. It's basically, oh my God, I went too low or I went too far to the left, so I can readjust my aim. And the essence of making mistakes is that you learn from them. I know when I was in Kenya and attempting to learn a few local languages, what I found out was that the times I made mistakes in pronunciation or grammar were the times I learned the best. Because if I got a word and I pronounced it, and suppose nobody corrected me, and I thought I had the pronunciation correct, but they were just being very nice to me, so I continued to speak it wrongly, and I never correct it. But if somebody has the compassion to say, well, it's pronounced like this, or the grammatical structure is thus, I learn and I won't forget it anymore. And so it's the mistakes we make that allow us to readjust our aim. And then the second thing that came to mind was, the story of the little boy, it's a true story, who comes across a chrysalis out of which a butterfly is trying to emerge. It's a little cocoon, and it's trying to work its way out of the cocoon, and it's struggling really, really, really hard, and it seems to be stuck. And the kid is watching it, fascinated, and it's half an hour, and it's really, really struggling, and just the upper portion of his body is out, and it's struggling to get the rest of it out. So very, very delicately, he takes the cocoon and he begins to break it asunder so he can release the butterfly. And indeed he does. But the butterfly is crippled for life, because it is the struggle of coming out of the cocoon that activates the lactic acid into the wing structure of the butterfly. And in the absence of the struggle, it doesn't get secreted. And so the butterfly is crippled for life because the kid thought he was helping them. And that's with our kids as well. That being overprotective, parents can cripple the child's ability to learn from their own kind of journey. Yeah. So having obviously the wisdom of a mother, is to try to gauge when it is appropriate to make an intervention and when it's okay to let the child fall on its butt and pick itself up.